I went in there to scare him. I didn't go in there to kill him. What had happened was, Dawn said something smart. I said, if you want to get rid of Mommy and Daddy, I said, I'll go get you a gun. I said, in fact, I'll get you a shotgun. How's that?
Before we get started, here are my nails before adding more polygel. I actually did another set of nails for this video, but I did not like how they turned out. You can still see some of the black on my nails, but I couldn't get it off without acetone. It won't be too noticeable when I'm done. Alright, let's get into it. The Amityville Horror Murderer, Ronald DeFeo Jr., just died on March 12, 2021, and here is his story. He liked to be called Butch and was the oldest of 5 children and was born in 1952 in Brooklyn, New York. His parents were Luis and Ronald DeFeo Sr., who was a successful car salesman. His father was physically abusive toward the entire family, including Luis. Neighbors said they would hear the family fighting and arguing all the time.
It was a crazy house. Somebody was always screaming at somebody in his house. The father would scream at the mother, the father would scream at all of them. The mother would scream at the daughter would scream at the next in line, right on down the line until the little one had nobody to yell at. So it was, like I said, a pretty nutso house. And then I know his sister was a bomb ready to go off too, with all the abuse she took in that house and everything from the father just screaming and yelling constantly. So anything could have happened. I think, yes, Dawn could have had a role in it.
Ronald was overweight and was teased at school because of it. He didn't stand up for himself and became a bit antisocial. It upset his father that he didn't stand up for himself, and so he would punish him with beatings. Butch recalls being told that when he was 2 years old, he was sitting in a high chair when he dumped his food on top of his head. His father got upset at the mess that he made, so he threw him across the room, slamming him into the wall. Butch says he has brain and spinal injuries from that incident and from other beatings from his father.
Father was a very rough person. I mean, he was a violent man. I got beat up since the day I was born. I mean, I know if they told me he took me out of a high chair and he threw me because I took a bowl of spaghetti and poured it over my head. It was a big joke when it happened until the mess had to get cleaned up. And he flung me across the room. That was probably another one of the shots I took to my spine and my head, because my spine is screwed up.
As he got older, his parents took him to a psychiatrist, which frustrated him because he insisted he wasn't the problem. I mean, he's obviously messed up a little, and I'm sure his father's abuse and school bullying had a lot to do with it. Butch finally got his parents to stop taking him to the psychiatrist, and to keep him quiet, they would buy him expensive gifts, like a $14,000 speedboat. At about 17, he began using LSD and heroin heavily and became more violent toward his friends. He was expelled from school for his violent outbursts. At 18, he was given a job at his father's dealership and wasn't expected to do anything but show up and get a paycheck. Actually, he didn't even have to show up to get paid. All of his money went towards guns, alcohol, and drugs. In events leading up to the murders, it's pretty clear that DeFeo was slowly starting to lose his mind, and the substance abuse, I'm sure, had a lot to do with it. He started to stand up to his father now that he was getting bigger and was able to defend himself, so altercations between the two of them became more violent. During one argument between Butch's parents, Butch shot a 12-gauge gun at Ronald Sr., but the gun malfunctioned and didn't fire. His father was shocked by his son's actions, but Butch continued on as if nothing serious had just happened. One day, Butch was supposed to deposit $20,000 into the bank from the dealership. He tells his father he was mugged, but when the police go to the car dealership to question Butch, he becomes annoyed and wouldn't comply. His father then became suspicious that he had something to do with the robbery. When Ronald confronted Butch about his suspicions, Butch threatened to kill him. And 2 weeks later, Butch did.
I was going to do this in the street. This wasn't going to get done in the house. And I was going to get somebody to do it. He would have got killed driving his car in Brooklyn somewhere. That's the way this is supposed to happen. But it got out of control. That night, things just happened. It was about 11 o'clock, a little after 11 at night.
Your father clobbers
you. He put a booster gold in my head. My mother cheered him on.
And what
hit
happens?
him again.
What happens after that?
What happened? Here I am and here you are.
No, but there's a little bit that happened in between.
Nothing happened in between. I made my mind up, that was it.
You made your mind up that
That
night
was it.
that you were going to kill your father.
That was it. Not supposed to happen that way. I made my mind up, that was it. That was the last threat in the last episode, that was it. The man was trying to hurt me bad. He was going to kill me.
On November 13th, 1974, at around 3 a.m., he went to each of his family members' rooms and shot them each with a .35 caliber Marlin rifle while they slept in bed. His parents were killed with 2 shots each, and his 2 brothers and 2 sisters were all killed with just 1 shot. His siblings were Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John Matthew, who was 9. He then cleaned up his mess, put all of the evidence in a pillowcase, and threw them down a storm drain on his way to work to the dealership at 6 a.m. While at work, he played dumb and called his house, acting like he didn't know where his father was. At around noon, he left work because he was bored and went to have a few drinks with some of his friends at his regular bar, further trying to establish his alibi. He left the bar a few hours later but returned soon after yelling, "You've got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot." When the police arrived, Butch told them that a mobster his father was indebted to was the one who committed the murders. He said that Fellini had taken him from room to room with a gun to his head and killed his family in front of him. The police immediately put Butch into protective custody and even had investigators stake out his house for a few days.
What to do, which way to go, who to trust, who to talk to. You want to tell the truth, and you can't. I was scared. I can tell you straight out. I didn't care who they blamed it was, as long as it wasn't me. I mean, that's the bottom line. I did not care. I didn't care then, I don't care now. I didn't care who they blamed.
And this story already doesn't make sense, because why would he have come back and said, "I think my mother and father are shot," instead of, "Hey, somebody made me watch the murder of my family"? Soon the police started to uncover evidence that pointed to Butch as the shooter. They even found evidence that he was involved in the so-called robbery of the $20,000. Stupidly, Butch even asked the police how he could receive the money from his parents' life insurance plan, which made detectives even more suspicious of Butch. When they began questioning him, his story started to change and did so often. He finally broke down and confessed, saying, "Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast." He starts to explain how he heard voices in his head telling him to kill his family because his parents were out to kill him. This probably isn't too far from the truth, since we know he has head trauma and he abuses drugs and alcohol. Butch and his attorney tried to get an insanity plea, saying he was neurotic and suffered from dissociative disorder. However, it was proved that Butch only suffered from antisocial personality disorder. So this means he was aware of his actions and motivated by a self-serving attitude.
My attorney used insanity as a defense. He told me you had to go in the courtroom and act crazy. Make these people think you're crazy. He said, "Tops, Ronnie, you'll be out in 3 years." He said the crime itself looks like a crazy man had to do it. Somebody out of their mind had to kill the whole family. He said, "This is what you got to do," and that's what I did. Changing stories was part of the insanity. You cannot go in the courtroom and stay on one track. If you stay on one track, you're not insane. You're very intelligent and know what you're doing. That was part of the insanity.
In addition to his own statement, there was a tremendous amount of evidence indicating consciousness of guilt. The fact that the evidence was carefully picked up and secreted by him, the fact that he took the rifle and threw it into the waters of the Great South Bay. All of this indicated his knowledge that what he had done was wrong, both in a legal sense and in a moral sense.
He was convicted of all 6 murders and was given 6 25 to life sentences and died at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. In 1986, after getting convicted, he said that Dawn was the one who killed their father and that their mother killed the 4 siblings, and then he said he killed his mother. He claimed he didn't want to say anything negative about his parents because he feared her father and his uncle would kill him. Ronald Sr.'s uncle was a leader of a well-known mafia crew in New York. In 2000, he came up with yet another story. He said that his sister Dawn was the one who had planned to kill their parents so they could run off together. It's said by people close to them that Butch and Dawn had an unusually close relationship. Butch said that she killed their parents and then their siblings, but it wasn't in the plan to kill their siblings. So Butch got upset and killed Dawn. And what's weird about the bodies when they were found is that everyone was laying on their stomach.
I went in there to scare him. I didn't go in there to kill him. What had happened was Dawn said something smart. I said, if you want to get rid of mommy and daddy, I said, I'll go get you a gun. I said, in fact, I'll get you a shotgun. How's that? And I went in the room and I grabbed your gun. So I said, here you go. What do you want me to do with that? I said, it's all ready to go. Just pull a hammer back and squeeze the trigger. The bullet in the chamber. It's all ready to go. So she said something smart, and me and her started arguing. I said, listen, this ain't getting us anywhere. What do you want to do? So I said, come on. I'll show you how to handle this like an idiot. And I went downstairs, and everybody was sleeping except her and me. His door was like 3/4 closed. I went in there, I said, hey, fat man, get up. And he started to get up. I'll never forget that. I got scared. My sister looked at me. She says, do it. I said, do it. I said, yeah, you do it. You know, I mean, we had a split second. He was getting up. I said, do it. I said, yeah, you do it. So then when I seen his body getting ready to make the move, I just pulled the trigger. After I pulled the trigger, I hit the lever, shot him again. My mother yelled, oh my God, Ronald. Now my mother went with a hand. My mother went with a hand towards the side of her bed. My mother had a 38 revolver. My mother went for that. I said, oh. My sister looked at me. I said, are you happy now? Are you happy now? I said to her, she looked at me. She said, oh my God, look what you did. I said, look what I did. I said, this was your idea, not mine. I said, look what I did. I said, Mommy got shot on top of it. I left the house and I told my sister, I'll be back. Don't do nothing. Let me see what we're gonna do. There's things that got to be done, but I gotta get out of here because I can't deal with this. Leave everything alone. That's what I told her. I left the house. Well, I was just driving around, really. It was late. Nobody was up, sleeping. I just kept driving, thinking. I was in a fog. I really didn't know what to do. You know, I was really messed up. The more I thought about it, the worse it got.
There was no struggle, and nobody had tried to escape after hearing the first few gunshots. Investigators found gunpowder on Dawn that would indicate that she did in fact pull the trigger, but when investigating even further, they concluded that the gunpowder showed up on her clothing because the gun was so close to her when it was fired, debunking Butch's claim. She was shot in such close range that almost her whole face was blown off. The one thing I can't get past, along with everyone else, is the fact that 7 gunshots were never heard by any of the neighbors. Those that were awake just reported hearing the dog barking uncontrollably. It was determined that a silencer wasn't used on the rifle. This leads some people to believe that something paranormal happened while Butch committed the murders. These folks believe that when someone is possessed by something, that the space around them is a sort of magnetic field, creating some sort of vacuum. About 13 months after the DeFeo murders, the Lutz family moved in. They bought the house for the cheap price of $80,000 with an added $400 to include the DeFeo's furniture. When George Lutz's friend learned about what happened, he advised the family that they should bless the house. The Catholic priest who carried out the blessing said he felt something in one of the rooms and told them not to use it. George Lutz claimed that he would be woken every night at about 3 a.m. around the time that the DeFeo murders occurred, feeling restless, uneasy, and hearing strange noises. He lost a lot of weight and was having trouble with keeping up with his hygiene. Kathy Lutz said she felt something different in each room and complained about flies infesting certain rooms even after killing them. They felt their daughter was starting to act strange. In their first hour in the house, they said their dog tried to commit suicide by hanging itself over the fence. What makes it hard for me to believe everything the Lutz family said is the fact that there was already a book deal in place before any of this had gotten out to the public. Even paranormal specialists and psychics are skeptical of everything that was written in the book by Jay Anson. Jay was reported saying, "I'm a writer. My only interest in writing is to write the best-selling book so I can build a house and never have to write again." He told someone else, "I predict that one day you're going to be broke writing your little non-ghost stories and I'm going to be in the Bahamas with a truckload of cashmere sweaters." This doesn't sound like a man who was interested in writing about the truth, although George Lutz stands behind the book as truth. Kathy passed away somewhat recently. George has filed many lawsuits against the films that he says don't reflect what happened at all. The screenwriter of the first film didn't care if the story was true or not. He just wanted to make a good film. The author of the book, Jay Anson, earned millions of dollars off the novel while the Lutz were given just $250,000. The folks who moved everything out of the house after the Lutz family left and the people who lived in the house later never experienced any paranormal activities. As much as I want to believe the occurrences, I can't get behind this story because of all the evidence pointing to it being a scam. I haven't watched the films and I was excited to, but now I don't know. Not sure if I even want to bother watching them. Let me know in the comments section what you think of the Lutz family. Do you think there's any truth to what they were experiencing in the 28 days that they lived in the house? Or was it all just a scam for a book deal? Thank you for joining me today. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of True Crime and Nails. And I'll see you next week with a review on Afterlife. All right, stay safe out there. Peace.